Alright. Okay, now we're good. All English viewers, please hold. We do the intro in Spanish and then we kick it from there. So, hola a todos, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué pedo? Perdón, no sé qué pasó ahí, pero estamos aquí, estamos vivos, está pasando esto. Gema Fantasy, el podcast de la Gema, transmisión en vivo de Ciudad de México. ¿Cómo están? Este es el episodio número 60. Ya llevamos 60 de estos pequeños desvergues, no lo puedo creer. Gracias a todos por estar viendo. Sé que tenemos audiencia hoy porque quieren ver al buen compa. Ya te hear you. Huevo. Veo que está la banda ahí en el chat. Saludos a los que están en el chat, por favor. Hoy tenemos un compa muy especial de Nintendo 64 y toda la comunidad de 64 está aquí reunida porque vamos a escuchar al buen David Shears de O Nacional de Smash Brothers. Smash 64, vaya. Y es un nuevo y innovador formato que es el formato de cascada, el formato Waterfall Tournament Format. Es muy interesante esto y quiero saber más de ello porque me interesa incorporarlo aquí en México y explotar a más teos que lo tuvieran en cuenta porque se me hace muy llamativo. Tiene ciertos requerimientos, pero se puede hacer y está chido. Así que, bueno, vamos a tomar un poco de agua y después cambiar a inglés, banda, para que lo vayan topando. Pero aquí estamos, cualquier cosa en inglés, en español lo pueden poner. Yo le pregunto a Shears o que tengan de preguntas y sí, no se preocupen. Pero bueno, cámara. México, Veracruz, México. Los Illuminati sabotearon el Steam Pack. Huevo. Así pasa. La gente no quiere que sepan esta información que les vamos a dar el día de hoy. Así que vayan a su propio OBS o vayan a los bots y vayan descargándolos porque esta es new shit. Banda. Real shit. Real fucking shit. Así que, bueno, vamos. Ahora sí, ya inglés. Ya, cámara. Hello everybody and welcome. This is the Gema's podcast. We're a creative collective from Mexico and we do Smash content, we do esports stuff in general. We got a tournament coming up here in Mexico, Thunderstruck, the biggest FGC tournament, King of Fighters, Street Fighter, Smash for Wii U, and Smash Melee. We might get a Smash 64 style tournament, maybe. But yeah, it's one of the biggest tournaments, so yeah, definitely have to check that out. Today we're gonna interview Shears. This is the second time we interview someone from the Smash 64 community. You might remember an interview with Mariwas. It's up on our YouTube. So yeah, we're gonna talk with Shears and we're gonna share the knowledge of the Waterfall tournament to the people. We're gonna bring the Waterfall to Mexico. So let's get the ball rolling. If you guys have any questions for Shears, do let us know. So let's get this show on the road. I'm Pablo. I'll be your host for today. So let's do this. Pablo, Smash 64 Player 64. Mucho gusto. 64. By the way, all stream viewers, if you guys have any questions or anything's good with the chat, do let me know. Ready to call David? Of course I am ready to call David. Let's get this show on the road. Yo. Hey, what's up? What's up, Shears? ¿Qué pedo, Shears?
How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
Pretty good.
Alright. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I had one of my only weekends at home for the past 13 weeks. So.
Alright. Wow, it's good. It's good to have a break. I know you're a very busy man. So I would really, for starters, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself. For all stream viewers, so people can get a general idea of who you are.
Alright, yeah. My name's David Shears. Shears is my last name. So I've gone by Shears my whole life. So that's why I picked my tag. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. Play Smash 64. I've been doing it for a while. I run a lot of the local scene here and basically every major tournament across the country. It's a pretty good hobby to have. But yeah, whatever else anyone wants to know, I'm open book.
All right. Nice. Respect. Okay, so from Baltimore. So did you stop playing in Baltimore? Was that where you first started off? Doing everything here in Smash?
Kinda. That's kind of where my 64 career really started. Which was kind of really my Smash career in general. But I first got into competitive Smash actually in college down in Virginia. 2008 is when Brawl came out.
Yeah.
And there was some top players that. For Melee at the time that, went to college with me. So they got Brawl actually before it was released in the United States and we all started playing it. and I kind of really got into the competitive scene there. And you know, in our dorms, we would all beat some kids in 64s, so you know, we would still play Smash 64, and I would beat everyone in 64. But then the brawl scene kind of died out after like 2009. You know, players like dropped out of college, and some kids just went back to Melee because Melee was kind of getting its revival around then. So yeah, some people. So basically, brawl died out, and no one really played 64 because there was really no one to compete with me. So 64 is kind of like, you know, dead in college. But basically, I went like on a hiatus for like I'd say like 4 years, and basically like the last semester of college, I met some kid that played it, and you know, we played back and forth, and he was really good. You know, that was kind of the person I started like improving my tech skill and everything with. And then Clubba, he's like a really, you know, old legacy, really popular Northern Virginia player. He went to school not too far from us, so he came down for a tournament. He won like, you know, game 5, you know, grand finals, you know, set 2 or whatever. So he was like, hey, you guys should get more into the tournament scene. And I finished college, moved up to Maryland. I got a job in Baltimore. And then, you know, I was kind of like inactive for like a year. I was kind of on Smash boards a little bit, but never really went to a tournament because there weren't any around. At the time, there was like Apex and Zenith, but I didn't really have like much interest in going to those. I was, you know, basically like had my other life going on, and then tore my PCL, couldn't really play sports, and then just started picking up Smash. And there was like a small tournament in Maryland, went to that, and then basically that kind of like where it started. 2013 was like my first time getting into competitive Smash. That started in Baltimore, and I was at first a player back then, because there really wasn't much tournaments just in general going on. So there wasn't really this big like console scene. There weren't like TOs. So I was kind of like new to the scene, but so was kind of everybody. There was really just your like legacy Smash boards people. And yeah, that's kind of, yeah, so you know, Baltimore's kind of where I started with Smash. It's where I've been for the past 5 years of my life. So
All right. Okay, so all right, that's been a while. Okay, all right. Half a decade, a luster, I think that's the name in English. So yeah, I must say, given your story, Baltimore scene right now is really different from back then, I guess.
Oh, way different. So basically, I guess to go a little more back in the history of, you know, me as a player. So my first real tournament ever was in 2013 in the summer. There was this little one in Maryland that they had, and I met like Nintendo and like this kid Breakthrough, who is, you know, at the time, you know, pretty popular in Smash Words. But there wasn't really like any huge names. Like A Money was there and Nintendo was there, but that was kind of it. But then, you know, after that first tournament, I was like, hey, I kind of want to get more into this. Like, these people are kind of normal. You know, I like the game. So then I went to my first like real tournament up in New Jersey, and that's where I met like Sensei and Stranded, and you know, Mewtwo King was there, and Han Solo players. I went to that first tournament up there, and that's when I really started, like, you know, deciding to put time in the game. I drove up to PA a couple times to play with some of the PA guys, because back then there was like nobody in Maryland. There really wasn't like a scene down here. We had like this one kid who would run some like Melee, Smash 4, PM, Brawl tournaments, whatever it was back then, and he would just throw 64 in, and you know, because there was no events going on anywhere in the country, people from like the tri-state area, New Pennsylvania, they would all come down for it. So it was kind of like, in those couple months, it was just kind of like really like casual. There weren't any big names. The competition was really like low. The skill gaps were huge. It was kind of like, you know, still felt like you were playing with friends in your neighborhood, not really like this big massive scene like it is today. But basically I went to Apex 2014 in January, and that was my first big major, 50 people or something. And that was a big one because a lot of international, I met like a lot of people for the first time. And still I was a player back then. There was only really Nintendo as the TO. There was like the only events every year were Apex and Zenith. So we didn't really have this big, you know, multi-major scene really going on. And then, you know, 6 months later we had Zenith. And after Zenith, I noticed from Apex 2014 to Zenith 2014, I didn't really notice myself improving as a player. And while I noticed a lot of people playing online, it sucked, so I didn't really care for it. And then I saw some people had like a couple friends they played with casually on console, like weekly or whatever, not really big scenes, but they had like their weekly scenes. And I didn't have any of that in Baltimore. I was just like the only player. There was nobody here. And I'd gone to like Xanadu, which is a really popular like weekly, you know, it's got VG Boot Camp that streams every week. And they're really big for Melee and Smash 4. So I went there and I tried getting people to play 64 with me, and no one really wanted to. I tried going like to all these different ways to find people to play with, and I couldn't find anybody. There was just nobody. This was a dead end. Baltimore had nothing to it. So from Apex 2014 to Xena 2014, I didn't really notice myself improving as a player. Well, I saw people that were kind of playing weekly, kind of separating the gap from where I was to where they were. And I came out as Xena 2014 like feeling really unsatisfied with my improvement, and I thought the only way this is going to happen for me to improve as a player was to start a console scene here in Baltimore. So that's kind of where like the beginning of my TO the story came to, because in order to be a better player, I needed players. In order to get players, I needed someone to tournament organize. No one was going to do that when I was the only player in the area, so I had to become the TO in order to prove myself as a player. I basically went on Craigslist, posted just this kind of like douchebag kind of post to try to like incentivize people to come out and play video games with me, because just kind of this random Craigslist thing. And that's where I met Dark Horse and Bark Sanchez, and then we started our console scene, and then it kind of blew up. We went to Xanadu because VG Bootcamp put out that venue. We started our weekly, and we were getting up to around like 20 people a week, which is pretty big for 64 back then, even still is kind of today for weekly scenes. So we got a lot of attention. We really grew up. We've got like a lot of players that are pretty talented here, and then things just took off. I mean, at the time, the only TO in like the world for 64 was Nintendo, and then I was running kind of the only real weekly scene. They were having some out in like California, like out in SoCal, but it wasn't too common. They didn't really like stream at all. So we were really the only real like console scene going on, and because of that, I kind of became the only like other TO other than Nintendo. So that's kind of where it wasn't like I was like, man, I'm gonna focus to be the best TO in the world. I was just kind of the only other TO in the world. So I kind of just like fell into that role, tended to kind of move more towards Melee, and that kind of just gave me that opportunity, and I just kind of assumed that position. So since then, I've kind of more known for my TO work than as a player. I've improved a little bit as a player, since the beginning, but it's kind of more my role now for this community as a TO than being a known player, even though some people say I'm a notable win, but that's kind of the beginning of it.
All right, so you would say this transition period started around middle or late 2014?
Yeah, late 2014, just after the turn of the summer. It was like fall 2014 to winter 2014. And it was a team that I started doing like national TO work. But at the time, there was really only AX, and then 2015 Matchrock came around. So back then, there was only really one tournament a year, tournaments a year to even be a national TO work. So I kind of took that role in 2014 after being, a local TO in 2014. And then, I just kind of was obsessive with the community and the growth of 64 in this game. So I kind of like really put a lot of work into making sure it could get to the heights that it's gone to today.
All right, okay. But still, you mentioned that most people know you as TO, but you're still a pretty good player in 64, right? You're like ranked 34 or something, 30 something, right?
35th, yeah. My ranking's gonna go down this year. I'm thinking I'm gonna be ranked like 50th or something, but I probably am still gonna be in the top 64. 35th last year. My performance really hasn't improved anything from last year. I'm kind of still hitting par where I was last year. Maybe a small dip, but I don't think too much. I think we've just seen some new, better players coming out. I guess I'm still like a notable player, and I don't really see that going down because I'm pretty competitive and I want to be good. But yeah, I'm more known as a TO.
Yeah, still it's pretty interesting, but a similar story, I wanted to play Melee, but there weren't people to play Melee, so I decided to make events for people to play Melee. I did more events, and I started having more opportunities to play, because at the end, when you finish organizing a tournament, running a tournament, I mean, sure, you want to play, but you're tired. Nowadays, I'm not only tired, I just simply don't want to play Melee. So it's funny that your side is actually keeping up with the game. I respect that, because it's hard. TO is hard, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't keep think about playing and doing. I know a lot of the TOs for the other games, Genesis, Shine, Smash, and things like that. And most of those guys, they kind of had to, in order to be TOs, they've had to give up their playing career. Because there's just so much burden of like responsibility, they have to kind of oversee stuff. And it's hard to kind of do both in time. But I mean, you talked about how like you kind of became a TO because you wanted to play Melee and there was no one doing anything, and the idea is people say, oh, Smash happened where I'm living, I need somebody to make Smash events. And these people, they ask this question, I need someone who's gonna build Smash events. The answer is yourself. If you want something done, you got to do it yourself. So you did that too. You just said, hey, I need Melee, so no one's gonna do it for me. I have to do it myself, and you became the TO down there.
That's right.
It was the same thing in Baltimore. If I want it to happen, I got to do it myself. I can't wait for someone else to do it. So I just kind of picked up that role, And yeah, I still keep up with the playing. I don't see myself ever stopping myself from being a player. I don't think I'm ever going to give that up. But I don't know if I'll continue being, a ranked player. I run a couple hours a week. And everyone is getting really good really quickly. There's a lot of up-and-coming talent. So,
All right.
yeah, no, I guess a lot of people don't. I don't really know any other TOs that do both.
All right. Okay, so now tell me something. You started out TO work when 2014 was finishing, but when was it you started getting the responsibility of bigger events, like for example, just recently you Super Smash Con, and now you're running Shine. So was it that would you say was like the break for you?
It was actually 2015. So back then, we only had Nintendo really running 64 tournaments. Apex 2015 came around, and Apex 2015 kind of fell apart. I don't know if you know the history of that.
Yeah.
It was actually a turning point in all the Smash. I think its failure was sort of like a silver lining, because it kind of forced on event organizers' responsibility. The way that collapsed, it kind of showed that like you can't have all your eggs in the basket. You can't have just one guy running everything out of his pocket. You need to have some more like organization, some more transparency. You need to have like a team of people doing things. So I think that was kind of a silver lining. That turning point. So Apex 2014, Nintendo was asked me to help out with it. So I did some with the pool captaining. And then he wanted to move to Melee because he saw like a feature later. He picked up the sponsorship. He's now the Melee top 100. So Nintendo kind of started moving more towards Melee career, and for Smash Cons for all games, so he kind of oversees everything. So Smash in 2015 came around, and they wanted him to be the head director for all games. He kind of is the boss to the TO3 game. It's like I was the 64 TO. I think like Plank was the Melee TO, and Tantalus was like Brawl and Smash 4 TO, and then Nintendo was kind of our like boss basically. He was the TO over the TOs, if you want to put it that way.
Okay.
And so because he was taking on that bigger role, we needed somebody to step in for 64. So I was really the only other one running events. So I kind of took that spot. And Pidge, she's a TO up in Toronto. She's moved towards Brawl now. She wants to really revive that scene. She was really the only other one running events too, because she was doing a lot of stuff up in the Toronto area. So basically, me and Pidge kind of worked SmashCon 2015. That was my first national big breakout for a big event. And then because I was really the only one as a TO in the community, when other events wanted to pick up 64, they needed somebody to pick up that role for TOing, and I was really the only point of contact for them. So they kind of just reached out to me, and I was Shine, that was Smash and Splash, that was Genesis was a lot of the LA guys doing that. Part of that team with them, we worked together for a lot of events. Snosa, Genesis, even ODS. Right after 2015 was actually when ODS happened, and Cody Daniels, who runs that event, reached out to me and had me help TO that. So yeah, I guess SmashCon 2015 was the first like turning point for my TO career into these bigger events. And then since then, just as more events have come up and the community's grown to a larger size, my responsibility has increased with that. So more events, bigger events, and more expectations as far as what players expect the tournament to give to them.
Right.
And that's kind of where like WTF came in, because that was our players expected more than your simple double elimination brackets, and so that was like our next big project as TOs.
Okay. All right. So there are certain things I want to touch in what you mentioned. I'll definitely write them down, because first I want to get to the nitty-gritty. The big stuff. You just mentioned it, the Waterfall tournament format, the WTF. Yes. WTF, Shears, with WTF.
So what do you want to talk about? Want to just go into that? Do you have any specific questions with WTF?
Okay. So first, you're
The idea behind, so I guess, yeah, the philosophy better. So the highest seed in a double elimination bracket has the easiest path to victory. The 1 seed plays the lowest seed, the 2 seed plays the next lowest seed, the 3 seed plays a seed next lower than that. And the point of it being double elimination is to give players at least more than 1 try, but not any more than that, because you don't really want these like scrubby players to keep holding everything up. It's fairly efficient. You get, every stage of it, you eliminate a large proportion of the event. They're trying to trickle down into what you have is just the final champion. And the point of the design of it is to make the challenge for the bottom player as hard as possible, because that's the nature of making the path for the highest seeded player the easiest possible. And it's kind of a defeatist mentality. So the point of the philosophy to WTF is the opposite of that. It's to give as many sets, quality constructive sets to a player as you can. When you're a low-level player, if you're playing Boom, if you're playing Isaiah, if you're playing Wario or Alvin, you're gonna get 5-stocked, and it's gonna be so overwhelming you're not gonna learn anything. In Melee, you'll see these random scrubs. They'll go and they'll play Mango, or they'll play Armada, and they get 4-stocked, and their victory dances that they did damage. And it's like the learning curve is so steep there that it's not a quality set for them. They can go back and watch it, and there's nothing they can learn other than that they're really bad at the game, and that these people are just way better than them. You learn the most when you're playing people just a little bit better than you, because that's the easiest way that you can take stepping stones into improvement. You can't take one step and leap up a mountain. You have to do it step at a time, right? You have to climb the mountain smash to where climb Olympus to where the gods are, right? You can't just take one step and leap there. So with double elimination, it's set up to create the gap between player skill, the largest gap it can be. It maximizes the gap between player skill, and that's a problem, because with only 2 sets to play, you're probably playing one player you're never going to beat. You're going to play like a Boom or an Isaiah or something, and then your next match is against somebody. Maybe if you're better than average, you can beat that person, but odds are you're probably going to lose that match and you're 0-2. If you're an average player, you'll lose to Boom or Isaiah, and then you'll play somebody you can beat, and you'll beat them, and it's not too close of a set. And then your next set is probably against somebody that you can't beat, and you've gone 1-2, and your tournament, you've paid your customer, right? I mean, attendees are customers to an event. You're a customer that spent like $500 for your trip with flying, hotel, food, and $100 registration. You're paying like a $500 weekend, and within 30 to 45 minutes your whole weekend's over because you went 1-2. That's not good for like customers, and it's not good for like harboring a good competitive environment. You're not encouraging people to improve and get better when there's no way they're ever going to beat Boom or Isaiah. So with WTF, we wanted to take that out. We wanted to, we still have our placement pools where you're probably playing a Boom or Isaiah, but it's never a dead end. You still have a chance of playing people around your skill level, and that's kind of what the philosophy of it is. It's to break people into skill groups and play the people that are around their skill. And if you can beat everybody in your skill, you move up to the next skill group and you play all those people, and you keep playing until you can't win anymore. So that's kind of like, if you think like karate, you don't have like a yellow belt or a white belt play a black belt. Like the white belts all play the white belts, the yellow belts all fight the yellow belts, and the black belts like fight the black belts, right? Like, you're not gonna have, you don't just come in and in order for you to become a black belt, you have to beat a black belt on your first day. No, you level up. It's a ladder system. So that's kind of what WTF is, ladder system. Yeah, great way to put that. Yeah, I really like how you put that. It's a synthesis. Yeah, so they had the ladder. So Melee started, I think Shine last year did it. They did like a ladder system. I think the Big House did it as well. So the ladder system that you see like really common in Melee and everything, it's a consolation. It's good for attendees. It's better than just straight double elimination because it gives them more than just going 0-2. I mean, if you the math of 0-2 of double elimination means that 25% of your customers go 0-2. That means 25% of the people that paid all this money to come for an entire weekend, their weekend is over in 15 to 30 minutes. 75% of your customers go 2-2 or less. I mean, you can't have a sustainable model for like a business if 75% of your customers are supposed to pay this exorbitant amount of money for an entire weekend and their weekend's over in an hour. It's just not a sustainable model. So okay. Yeah. So in double elimination, so if you have 64 people, let's say you have 64 people in a double elimination tournament. 64 people, it would be 32 rounds because 2 people. So a round is obviously 1v1. So that's 2 people per set. So you take 64 divided by 2, and you have 32 sets, and that's your first round played. So if you look at any elimination bracket, the first round is going to be 1/2 of all of the people, or the number of sets played is 1/2 of the number of entrants. So that's 32 sets played. And there's a loser in every one of those sets. So that means 32 losers move into the first round of losers. So 32 people go 0-1. So half the tournament goes 0-1 in their first set. So half the tournament loses their first set. And then in that losers bracket, you have those losers. They all so let's say you have 64 people and you have 32 in your first set. 32 of them will move on to the first round of winners. 32 of them will move to the first round of losers. Those 32 that move into the first round of losers all play each other. And there's 32 people there, so 32 divided by 2 means there's 16 sets being played. And somebody loses, there's going to be a loser in every one of those sets. So automatically 16 people in first round of losers are going to be eliminated, and 16 is so 1/4 of 64 because you do 2 divided. So 64 divided by 2 is 32. Divided by 2 is 16. So 64 divided by 4, that's 25% of the tournament goes 0-2. That's 100% fact. That's the math of double elimination. The way it's structured, it's an unavoidable situation in double elimination for your customers. I mean, 25% have to lose 0-2. There's just no way around that. And it's just a terrible. It's like if you're a car salesman and 25% of your customers buy a car and then it explodes when they walk out of the lot with it. Like, you're not going to be, no one's going to come to your lot to buy a car if there's like a 25% chance that the thousands of dollars they spend on your car, they're never going to be able to take home. No one wants to pay a car and drive it down the block and then it's blown up before they get home with it. That's 25% of the people that go 0-2. They don't even get to take it for a ride. The time they sit in the car, they turn the ignition on, it's over. Their weekend is over. They go, 0-2 is 30 minutes of your day, and that's an entire week. What was that? Oh, my. Computer engineering at Virginia Tech. Yeah. Yes. Yep, that's correct. Yes. So the placement pools. So I guess I'll go through the whole thing. So the placement pools, that's like your standard pools you see in a lot of events. You have your shark in the water. It's your Isaiah. It's your boom. It's your elite level player. It's one of your gods or something. and then you have it's like any other pool. It's gonna have this gradient of skill. It's gonna have your best player to your worst player, scrubs, and everything in between. And the idea behind the placement pool is it kind of determines which division you place in. That's the name wasn't just a coincidence. So if you win a lot of them, it's not always like this. This is kind of a malleable format. You can customize whatever you want, but the recommended WTF format is that the winner of a placement pool goes into Division 1 because they finished first in their pool. And then second place in the pool would go to Division 2 for finishing second in the pool. Division 3 would be the third place in the pool, and Division 4 would usually be fourth in everybody else. So if you have a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th or so, they would all go into that Division 4. And the purpose of this is these divisions now, they're now groupings of people at similar skill. You don't have Boom and Isaiah in your division if you lost to them. You basically will then play all the people that did just as good or just as bad as you did in your pool. So in a normal double elimination, you might tie with 8 people for 17th. In this tournament format, you're going to then play all the people you tied with. So all the people that got second in their pool, you're going to play all of them, and we're going to see who's the best to second place. And if you're the best to second place, you get to move on to play all the first place people, because maybe you couldn't beat Boom or Isaiah, but maybe you could beat Mariglas or Dexter or Bark, one of these other first place guys. So you kind of gradually move up this ladder, and that's kind of where we see. So if anyone's looking at the graphic, you first play out your placement pool to see where everyone goes, and then you start with playing your lowest skill division first, and that in this graphic is going to be Division 4. And this should consist of mostly beginner players. Division 4 should be all these people that weren't that talented, they weren't that good, they were all the scrubs who got beat up, and basically it's going to say who's the best of the worst, right? Who's the best of the scrubs? And all those scrubs play each other, and they're going to get naturally more sets than they would in double elimination. Most tournaments after this placement pool, people's tournament will be over, their weekend's over, their experience is over, they're done as customers. But here they're given a second chance. It's like, like in Mario, you have extra lives. If you lose once, you're not over, you keep going. And you can get new lives, right? So that's what Division 4 is. You got to play all these people, and if you're better than all of them, you move into the next division, and that's going to be Division 3. And that's kind of like your intermediate skill. It's people that, won 1 or 2 games in their pool, but they still lost 2 or 3 games as well. So that's going to be these Division 3 people. And the idea is if you're the best in Division 4, you might be just as good or better than the other people in Division 3. And you might just been unfortunate and get a bad seed. So that's another thing in double elimination is people get seed locked. If there's almost no way out of your seed unless you are way better than where you're seated, because it's going to require you to beat somebody you're not expected to beat. With Waterfall, if you get seeded poorly, there isn't a dead end there. It's not like a hopeless seed. You always have a chance to prove yourself and move up, and it's a stepping stone. You don't have to prove yourself by beating Boom. You got to prove yourself by beating some other scrub, which is a little bit more encouraging, and it harbors this and it promotes this winner victory kind of alpha male mentality to become successful, instead of this fall back, at least you made your seed, at least you didn't lose, badly to Boom or something, right? So it's more about promoting win and victory and becoming a division champion than becoming a 2-2 player. So the beginners will move to the intermediate stage, and they'll play all the intermediate players. And if you can beat all the intermediate players, if you can continue to win, you move to the next round, and that's Division 2, and that would be the advanced players. That's the people that beat most people in their pool, but couldn't beat. They're not elite level yet because they couldn't beat Boom, they couldn't beat Isaiah, they couldn't beat Mariglas, but they can beat just about everybody else. And then you move into the Division 2. And then in Division 2, everyone plays just like Division 3 and Division 4. And if you are the best of the advanced players, you move into the round of Division 1, and that's going to be all of the elite players. That's going to be, you're in the same tier. It's basically breaking it into tiers. People, know the tier system real well. So you're breaking into these. You're now in the S tier. You're now in the A tier or something, right? You're with all of the best players, and if you can beat all the best players, you're the champion. But the idea is you keep playing until you can't win anymore. In double elimination, you play till you lose twice. You could have beaten half the tournament, but you only got to play 2 people, and you play till you lose twice. In this system, you keep playing until you can't win anymore. It's a better telling of where your skill falls. Yeah, let's say so. I did it for 4 here because it's an easy way to capture kind of the idea and the philosophy of WTF. But like, let's say you've got like 1,000-person tournament. You can group this into as many divisions. You can go 100 divisions. You could go 10 divisions. You know, you could have as many sizes as you want. You can break this into. There's really no limit to. The only limit to this really is how much time you want to spend running the tournament and how many setups you have to run it. If you have an infinite amount of setups and you have an infinite amount of time, you can do an infinite number of divisions. You know, you can run it forever. So we were talking about it for SmashCon. Actually, we ended up going with the traditional, you know, Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, and then a top 32 bracket for the people that, you know, made it the best of the best of Division 1. But we were thinking about even doing like more divisions beyond that. So all of Division 1 would play each other, and the winners would go on to. We didn't have a name for it yet, but we, you know, in the working just concept for it, we called it Division 0. And then all the people in Division 0 would play each other, and the best of Division 0 would then go to like Division -1, and they would all keep playing each other until we finally got 8 players left, and then we would do our top 8 double elimination bracket. You can do it that way too. You don't have to necessarily after Division 1 it's over or Division 1 goes into a bracket. You can add layers on top of this, where these players keep playing these round robins, because you know, you go think about like Evo, right? You know, like Mango plays Armada, plays Hungry Box, right? Like they play all these people because they have to go through these losers runs. But not everybody in top 8 plays each other. And you know, maybe, you know, if you know, Armada or Hungry Box or Mango or I don't know who else, maybe Plup or something, if they had to play everybody in the top 8, maybe they don't do as good, or maybe they do better than they did in their tournament. They played the one guy they couldn't beat. So you could keep moving this up because everyone wants to see. They go, I want to see everyone. I want to see all the best play each other. So you could do that with Waterfall. You could add another division on top of Division 1. You call it Division 0 if you want. And all those people that are the elites, they then play all the next best of the elites, and you can keep cutting down your like skill into these like finer granularities of skill into like this peak, you know, division, pro division or whatever, and they all play each other. So you can make this however you want. There's really no limit to it. And then a good strategy though is to end it on a double elimination. And the point of ending on that double elimination, top 8 or top 16 or top 32 or something, is if you stick to just round robins. The problem with just round robins is the last set played might not determine a champion. Somebody can already have won their round robin despite there being matches left to play. So it kind of loses kind of its hype. So we've always, just for good production practice, for streaming, for YouTube, kind of for like the attention, we've always finished with a double elimination that was a final part to the whole tournament, just because you can track a player's progress into this championship match, right? In round robin, you kind of lose. There's no championship title match in a round robin, but there is in a double elimination. So double eliminations, it's really only its benefit is for the presentation of an event, but for the players, the Waterfall is going to provide a lot more value for them as far as number of sets played and for where they fall as a player in their skill groupings. Kind of. So I've done WTF on a lot of different constraints. So while it's always better to have more setups than less, you can do it on less setups. It just kind of might require a little bit more time. So you can make WTF run within almost any time constraint. It just kind of comes down to if you need to do it in less time, you're going to need more setups. If you want to do it with less setups, you're going to need more time. So for SmashCon this year, so SmashCon, I guess just the SmashCon last year, we had, I had the numbers up somewhere. SmashCon last year had like 620 sets played. SmashCon 2016 had like 620 sets played on 32 setups over the course of, I want to say, 12 hours. So we had 12 hours of tournament time, 32 setups, we had to do 620 sets. That's kind of standard set per hour kind of count, or set per setup per hour count for most tournaments. I think it was like, don't quote me 100%, I think it was 627 sets over 12 hours on 32 setups. And that's kind of normal. That's like a normal pace for a tournament. This year, we wanted to do Waterfall tournament format, but we weren't able to get any more time or any more setups. And what makes that so much more challenging is that we had 627 sets played last year. This year we wanted to do, and I think, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was 1,183 sets this year, and we had the same exact constraints. So we had to do basically 2 times as many sets in the same amount of time with the same number of setups. And last year we were very tight on schedule. We didn't have a lot of breathing room. So I basically added 2 times as many sets with the exact same number of setups in the exact same amount of time as last year, and we finished ahead of schedule on just about every single round. Top 8 finished exactly in the 4-hour slot, 4 hours round. So while I do recommend more time and more setups, it's not 100% necessary. With very tight TOing and very good players that are responsible in playing their sets promptly and immediately, you can do WTF with the same number of entrants on the same number of setups in the same amount of time as double elimination. So we did a tournament with 26 entrants. I think we had 8 setups with 26 entrants, and we did it in, I want to say, 5 hours. Now you could do it in less. We did 2 divisions, and then we did a top 8 as well. So a way you could definitely do it. You could definitely do WTF with 24 to 30 entrants on 8 setups. You probably can't do as many sets as we did. So with round robin, the more players you have in a pool, the more time that it's played, because it's exponential. The amount of sets played in a round robin pool is the number of entrants minus 1 times 1/2 of the number of entrants. So when you add 1 entrant in, that 1 is actually, it's like it's exponential. I think it's x squared over 2 minus 1/2 or something is the formula, or 1/2 or something, right? So yeah, so I guess the way you would have to do it then is you can do it on the number of setups with that many entrants, but instead of like when we did with 26 entrants, we had pools of 7 players. You would probably do pools of like 5 or 4 players. So while they're not going to get maybe as many sets as we got in our WTF, because we had more time and a little bit more setups to work with, you would still be giving your players more than 0 and 2. So I could draft this for you actually after we get over this. I could actually draft this whole thing for you, so you'd be able to do it this Friday if you wanted to. But each player would probably get a minimum of like 7 sets. And that's your worst player would probably get a minimum of 7 sets. Your best player, your champion, they're probably going to play like 12 sets. Right? So it's not too much more. They probably play like 6 or 7 sets already. So they're playing a couple more sets, and those extra sets are kind of just fluff sets. They're not really like challenging, stressful top 8 sets. They're kind of just playing a little bit, a couple more scrubs, which I don't know how some of your players are, but our top players don't really care to play a couple extra scrubs. It's not exhausting. It's not there's no fatigue. It's just kind of they'll play a secondary, a low tier, and have fun with it. So I can definitely draft it for you, and yes, you could definitely do WTF for 24 to 30 entrants on 8 setups in 4 hours. That's Yeah, and then that's going to bring out more people to play. So I know, and you've probably seen this on your end. When you have a tournament, you get a new player. They go 0-2 because they get destroyed by the best player there, and then they lose to some mediocre player that's just still better than them because they're brand new, and they never come back because they paid. I don't know what your weeklies are, but for ours it was like $10, right? So they paid $10 and lost when 0-2, and maybe they say, okay, I'll come next week. Maybe I'll get a little better. We'll see how I do. I probably got bad luck today. They come back the next time. They pay another $10 and they go another 0-2, and they're done in 15 minutes, and everyone else is playing for hours. They never come back. They don't have any reason to come back. I mean, why are they going to pay all this money every week when not only are they not getting any of it back, but they're not even winning. They're not getting anything out of it. For these people, it's basically like a tax. It's like a tax to top players. They're basically donating their money so some top player can get a paycheck every week. And a lot of people don't agree with that. They don't want to do that. They love the game, but they don't want to have to pay so someone else gets a paycheck. Especially when they're only getting 2 games in. So for the customer base, they're getting their money's worth. They're going to get a lot of sets, and a lot of competitive sets, and they're going to get a lot of sets against people that are their skill level. If they have to beat Boom every single week, they're not going to do it. If they have to beat Mango every single week, they're never going to do it. It's not like they're just going to magically get better next week and then be Boom level. It's just not going to happen. But if they can get if they only have to be one more Z cancel, one more combo, one more edge guard away from winning, then they're gonna come back because they know they can do it, and then they'll do it, and then they'll start seeing their own improvements as baby steps, as opposed to having to just in one step leap to Mount Olympus and play with the gods. It's just not gonna happen. So you give them stepping stones in these small little steps, and that's kind of what WTF is about. I mean, we see a lot of these sets at a lot of these tournaments. The players are that they'll win their division, right? And they'll get to the next division and they'll lose, but they were like game 3s, or they were like a last stock away, and that's very encouraging to a player because it shows them that the margin of victory is reachable. It's an attainable goal because they only need to get a little bit better. And it's not like we should be saying, oh, you only get a little bit better, that's fine, you're now good. It's never like that, because with WTF they keep leveling up, they keep getting to harder divisions, they keep getting new challenges, but it's not an overwhelming challenge. It's a manageable challenge. So yeah, I think it brings players back. We had a lot of players that just never came back again because they didn't want to go 0-2 and pay money. And I think if you do WTF, you're going to start seeing more higher retention rates with customers, and more of them returning week in and week out to play and get better. Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with the first part. What made me kind of see from the sets. So I've always been about growing 64, and even before Waterfall, I put a lot of money and a lot of time in the game, into the community. I even wrote some articles, kind of like showing the growth of 64, where it's going, where it was, strategies we were kind of implementing to grow the community. And I kept having this question about how can we get improvement to be better? How can we get the numbers to get better? How can we get our players to be more reliable returning customers? Fire Blaster, after every major, he would create this spreadsheet, and he would show how many players from the last tournament came to this tournament, and the retention rate was always the retention rate was pretty good, and we always had an increase in numbers, and the percent that was being retained was always going up, but that percent was kind of so if you took the derivative of that curve, or the second derivative of that curve, you saw that the slope was decreasing. Even though it was still a positive slope, it was still a decreasing positive slope. So we're always thinking about what's the answer to this. How do we make this continually positive and then increasingly positive? And it was at Super Booms, which was a tournament out in New York. We did round robin pools, and then the winners of the pools went into a top 32 bracket, but the losers all went into a consolation amateur bracket. Now, I think amateur brackets are good, but I think WTF is better. And the reason why I think it's better is because in the end, an amateur bracket's a consolation. If you win an amateur bracket, there's nothing to it other than saying you won an amateur bracket. It's kind of like a dead end. So I think WTF has basically taken that amateur bracket and making it where it's part of the tournament. And basically at Super Booms, we had this, and at that time, the best idea for how to get the most to your customer was what we were doing at Super Booms. It was round robin pools to a pro bracket and an amateur bracket, and the amateur bracket guy gets like a t-shirt or something. And that was that you know, at the time was the best thing for any customer. And this guy, one of the New York players, Dark Gentleman, he came to me, and he's actually kind of the architect of WTF. I've gotten a lot of credit for it, but he's the kind of the guy that came up with it. He comes to me and goes, "Hey Shears, we need to think of something better." I go, "What is there that's better? I mean, you know, I would like something better. I still feel like we're missing a piece, but I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything that is better than what we have." And he goes, "We need somewhere where we aren't having our scrub players playing a shark and losing. They can't play a black belt every tournament and lose. We need something better." And I go, "Okay, well, you know, I'm a little busy with Super Booms. I like the idea. I like what you're trying to do. Message me on Facebook and we'll figure something out." And we basically talked for maybe the next month or so, or 2 months or so, and we kind of kept throwing ideas back and forth. And he kind of really, because he pays attention to a lot of fighting. I believe he does one of the martial arts. I don't want to. I know he does boxing, I think, but I don't want to quote exactly. He does some form of fighting. And he basically modeled. He kind of came up with this idea with WTF, kind of behind that system, where you don't really have like a white belt playing a black belt. You have the black belts play the black belts, and the white belts play the white belt. And if you can beat all the white belts, you move up to the next belt. So he's like, "Hey, this is kind of what we need to do. I think this is better." And I know I totally agree with him. It was a great idea. And then my job is basically to turn that the design of that into something that's going to fit into the logistical constraints of a tournament. And there was a tournament that was just announced right after we kind of finalized the idea of not only what WTF was, but had figured out a way it would work within the logistical constraints of a tournament with time and setups. And it was Keystone. That was Keystone back in March in Philadelphia. And Dark Gentleman approached Moosh, and he's like, "Hey, I've talked to Shears a lot. We want to do this. We think this is going to be great for your event. Are you on board?" And he basically convinced Moosh that this was going to be the future. And you know, we set it up. We went with it. We ran with it at Keystone. It was a total success, huge success. And since then, every event has done WTF. I mean, that was a milestone for not only for 64, but for WTF. Everything since there's been there. So yeah, that's kind of how we got into it. It was just kind of like, I've always wanted to do things for customers. Dark Gentleman came up with a good idea for customers, and we just basically, you know, worked together to perfect it. But it's taken a while. It's not caught on to Melee yet. They're very well aware. I've talked to a lot of TOs about it, a lot of top like personalities and the community leaders in Melee, Smash 4, the other games. They're all well aware of WTF. They all really respect it and they like it. They're just kind of hesitant on trying it out at majors because it's a commitment. I mean, if you go to do it and you mess up big time. So it doesn't have a lot of room for error. It's very set intensive. It's very dense when it comes to the number of sets played per setup, per hour, per event. So, or per player too. So it's high risk. It's also high reward. It's doable, but you got to make sure you have a very good staff to make it run. For SmashCon, I had an outstanding staff, outstanding volunteers. They did everything exactly as I could have imagined. I mean, it was like a dream come true. But you know, Melee, once you get so much bigger, you have a lot more moving parts. And when you have that many more moving parts, you have more things that can go wrong. So it works in paper and it works in theory. I'm convinced it will work in practice. But that's kind of what's kind of been this hurdle for Melee, is kind of just jumping in. It's like if you're walking into a pool or walking into the water at a beach, right? And you know, you put your toes in and it doesn't feel too cold, and you start getting a little deeper, and then by the time you get close to your waist, it's almost a little too cold. You don't want to jump in, you want to just go back. WTF, it's just taking the plunge. It's taking that big step and just going head under, and it's a little overwhelming at first. So I think it's kind of what scared them, but They're all well aware of it. They've read a lot of it. I've talked to a lot of people about it. A lot of people are starting to pick it up for their monthlies, their weeklies, their regionals, and I do believe that in 2018 we're going to see WTF at a major for Melee with like 1,000-person tournament. I've actually already drafted a WTF for 1,000 people that works within the current constraints of most Melee majors. So the biggest WTF I've drafted is 1,024 entrants, and it runs just in the same amount of time that Smash and Splash, G4, and SmashCon run in. So it's the same exact amount of hours. It requires like 10% more setups, which when you're a tournament of this size with this many customers, you can, I think, putting, a couple more bucks. It doesn't break the bank. It's not out of budget. They can totally afford to do it. So I think, putting a little bit more money into a couple more setups. It's not much more. It's 10%. A couple more setups, and you can run it in the exact same amount of time that they're already running in, and you're going to give your tournament customers so many more matches. I mean, every single customer here is going to get at least 11 sets, and normally 25% of them get 2 sets, and 75% of your entrants get 4 sets or less. And in this method, in this format, every single entrant is going to get at least 11 sets. And this is a 1,000-person tournament over the course of the exact same amount of time with barely any more setups. So I do believe in 2018 we're going to see this happen at a Melee Major. I don't know which one's going to break the ice and go and do it. Shine, I really thought they were going to do it. They do their ladder anyway, so it's kind of a good compromise. But I think if I'm betting, I think Smash and Splash is going to do it for Melee next year. That's my bet. I think Smash and Splash does it. Yeah, that's my prophecy. The Nostradamus kind of thing. Yeah, I would say it's very optimistic. Anybody who doesn't want to do it, if the reason isn't because of logistical concerns, because they have a lot of sponsors, something like relying on the success of the event. If someone's concern is simply, I don't like it, or I don't think my entrants are gonna like it, whatever those kind of opinionated excuses are. I think that's just people afraid of change and they want to stick to the status quo. That's just the pessimist talking. The optimist sees this is a very profitable event. The only reason to not do WTF is if you're afraid, or if you don't trust your staff to pull it off responsibly. So if you trust your staff and you think that your volunteers and your TOs are good, there's no reason not to do WTF. Well, that was really cool. I mean, it was a little bit heartbreaking when he beat Isaiah, but at the same time, it's like really cool for him because he's like one of the coolest players to follow and watch. He's always put really his heart into improving, and he's always been one of these top players, and he's gradually gotten better and better. And he's talked about climbing the mountain, beating Isaiah, going and meditating, right? Like 64 has turned into almost a religion for him, and he finally beat Isaiah. It was like a really cool performance for him. For him, it was like a dream come true. But I guess for the 64 scene as a whole, I think it's got after SmashCon, it's a huge turning point. Our numbers overall, I guess, if you just look at total entrance, it was a little down this year. Genesis 4 was a little smaller than Genesis 3. SmashCon was a little smaller than SmashCon 2016. Shine is like 4 entrants or 5 entrants less than Shine last year. So we've seen a little bit of a dip at the multi-game majors, but Snowso was bigger this year than last year. Let's Go was the biggest exclusive we've ever had by a large margin. It's one of the largest 64 tournaments of all time. we've seen a big rise from multi-game majors to 64 exclusives, and in my opinion, that's really good for the growth of 64 because the profits from these events go back into the community to do more for the players and more for the community, as well as we got the affiliation with Twitch. So the Twitch channel for 64 is starting to be a revenue source. We got to get, I think we're mailing out one of the prize winners for like a t-shirt or something this week. So we've started to get some income sources for 64, and that's through the multi-game, that's through our exclusives, that's through our Twitch channel. So that's going to allow us to do more for our dedicated players. So if we look at the drop in total entrance at something like SmashCon last year versus SmashCon this year, the core players has actually gone up. We at multi-game majors, you get about like 50% of your entrants are just kind of fair weather fans, casual fans. There's nothing wrong with them. I would love them to come out. It's a great way to try the event. But a lot of those players, they kind of just enter because they go 0-2 in Melee. They got nothing to do for an hour. They figured I'll just enter 64, play that game for a bit, and then I'll go watch top 64 Melee on VG Bootcamp. They just need to kill their time. For a lot of these kids, it's like a daycare their parents put them in. That's basically a Smash major is basically a weekend daycare for their kids. So they just kind of enter 64 with no intent to really ever play 64. And that's what about 50% of our entrants were at Genesis 3, Genesis 4, and SmashCon 2016. Our dip in numbers, which was about I think we were like 15 total entrants less than we were last year. That dip was mostly a reduction in the number of casual fair weather fans we got. Our core of known returning 64 players was actually up 2017 than it was in 2016. So I think the growth we're seeing is in the core of players than it is in these fringe players. So that's kind of what my focus has been as well, is been delivering more to the attendees who have reliably been part of growing 64 and dedicating their life to coming out to these tournaments. I care more about the returning customer than the new customer, in a way, right? So I do appreciate the new customer, but we have fans that have come to every event for years. They fly out to all these majors. These people that have been loyalists to 64, they're kind of the people I think deserve attention first. And that's kind of what I want to do, is grow the core. And then once we've got a really strong core, which I think we've kind of just hit, SmashCon 2017 was absolutely incredible. So I think we kind of hit this really strong core, and now I kind of want to do this outreach to bringing in these new players. And I think a lot of that outreach comes from basically conventional marketing as far as most businesses are concerned, but it's kind of atypical marketing as far as Smash is concerned. Smash focuses a lot on this echo chamber of Twitter and this r/Smash Bros Reddit, while I kind of want to reach out to Facebook advertising, to demographics that aren't currently in Smash, bars, Reddit, but not Smash Reddits, not gaming Reddits, local Reddits /r/Baltimore, and places like that, to bring in new players. And I think it's easier to get a totally new Smash player to fall in love with 64 than convert somebody that already loves Melee to love 64, because Melee is already their first love. You're not going to take away their high school sweetheart. And I think that's kind of a different approach you have to take. So I do see it growing, and I think it's been growing. Our core has been growing specifically, and I think that's the most important part, because once you have a really big core, you get gravity, and that gravity will just naturally bring in more players. And after SmashCon 2017, I think we've got not only a big core, but we got a ton of attention through the combo contest, through people that tried out WTF for the first time, and I see 2018 being, I think, excuse me, 2016 was our biggest as far as numbers went. I think 2018 is going to beat 2016, because our core that we invested in 2017 is going to have enough gravity to just totally jump those numbers next year. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Wait, you said who is your favorite Baltimore player and why is it apparition? Well, he's Baltimore's native son. That's why. We did, but it was for people that basically didn't make Division 3. So instead of a Division 4 for time constraints, Division 4 was just an amateur bracket. I do like what Cora is suggesting. It's definitely doable. We can actually do something like that. I've talked to people at SmashCon about it last year, or this past, I guess not last year, this year, a couple weekends ago. So I did talk to people about that, and I actually like that going forward at multi-game majors, because you can run an amateur bracket concurrent with like top 32 or something, because you have all these excess setups. So the people in D3, even though it wasn't a dead end, they could have gone up. A lot of those people knew they were never going to make D1. So I think giving another consolation bracket to those people is a good idea. So I do agree with that. I think that's a good suggestion. Yeah, my idea too is like if you have the time and you have the setups, why not do it? A lot of TOs are lazy. They go, I want to get this done, and then they do the bare minimum, and they're happy because they've got their paycheck. They get to go relax. They've played their games. They did how they wanted to do. Their players did well. The stream did well. The viewers at home loved it or something, right? But they get a little bit lazy. They see all these extra friendly setups and they go, we'll just let them play friendlies. But some people, like. Friendlies get dominated by top players. If Boom sits down and Kiro sits down and Alvin sits down, all the top players are going to swarm around them, and they're going to kind of like clog up the friendlies. So a lot of like casual players, they're nervous, they're new, they don't really know anybody, they don't know what Boom's personality is like. They're afraid to ask to play a friendly. So they kind of stand in the corner and they watch people play, but they never really get to play the friendlies themselves. So that's like one thing I also don't like about friendlies is it kind of creates these cliques. Like you think in like high school, it's all the pretty girls and the jocks sitting at a table, and then the nerds are never going to be allowed in. So it's kind of like that. The top players are basically your pretty girls and your jocks. They kind of dominate the tables in the friendly setups, and then these other people, there's almost no way in. So I think you can maximize the setup use and the sets played for people by just when these friendly setups open up, you just start running a concurrent amateur bracket, and then these people, they'll still get more games. Even if they can treat them as friendlies, they don't care. It's a consolation. It's amateur. They don't really care if they win it or not. They at least get more sets that they're guaranteed to play. Because a lot of people, they don't get the friendly sets they think they're going to get. The top players get them because they're top players. They can basically sit down and wherever they want. They can, they basically got to make the rules. So it's these people, they look at it. They don't look at it from the perspective of the lowest level player. And a lot of those people, they don't get the friendlies they want to get. So by having a consolation bracket, they will get it. I think TOs are just lazy. They don't really want to, take the time to set something else up. They're exhausted after running the major brackets, the pro brackets. They don't really want to have to do that work all over again for players that aren't very good. It takes a lot of motivation to get up and do that for them, but I think it's worth it when you really want to grow your community, your event, and treat people well. So. Yeah, I guess if anyone wants to reach me, they can just, hit me up on Twitter. It's SSB Shears. I mean, I'm pretty open on Facebook too. I try to read every message. I miss a couple because I get 1,000 messages a day. But, yeah, people can hit me up wherever. SSB Shears on Twitter. I have a Twitch. I have a Twitch channel, but I never use it, so don't even bother following me on Twitch. My YouTube hasn't had a video uploaded in 2 years, so don't even bother with that either. But yeah, I'd say follow me on Twitter. I don't really have like shout outs, I guess. You know, Dark Gentleman, I think there's a lot of credit for the Waterfall tournament format. He kind of was the architect of the whole thing. You know, Shine's going to be doing WTF for, you know, this weekend, actually. It's the second big multi-game major to do it. Smash and Splash was the first, but a little bit smaller in entrance, so this is kind of the second really big, you know, multi-game major to do it. And I think, yeah, I think it's a big future. I mean, I don't have, I'm open up the Twitch chat now. If anyone wants to shoot a question, I can answer, but... Twitter.com, yeah, /SSB Shears. Yep, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah, I'll draft the WTF for you for this Friday if you wanna try to give it a shot. I also want to say, yeah, thanks for having me on here. Anybody's watching, just shoot these guys a follow. On Twitch, on Twitter, it's La Gema, if I pronounce it. Yeah. Yeah, shoot them a follow too. These guys, you guys did the Marigo's interview. I thought that was really good. I definitely want to hit you up. I'm trying to plan. I don't think we're gonna do this year because we don't have. It's gonna cost some money. I don't know how much we're gonna get from fundraising for the community. So we're probably gonna just save up for next year. But I want to do like an invitational, kind of like the summit type thing. And I was thinking like Colombia or like Cancun. Yeah, I guess we could try to do something down there. Maybe Mexico City. I know there's. I know you can get some pretty good Airbnbs down there. I was looking some places. All right. So yeah, no, I'd like to do that. Yeah. Now, I guess I got a question. Is you guys are in Mexico City, correct? Okay. Yeah, Dexter lives out in Mexico City. I don't know where exactly. I just know he flies out of the big airport there. Probably one of the suburbs or somewhere in the city. I don't know exactly where. It's a huge city. It's one of the biggest cities in the world. So I don't know exactly where, but he's in that area. So it's a pretty good spot, I guess, for if you tried doing some stuff down there. You could get a lot of the Marigots to probably come out. You could probably get. I don't think Peru needs a visa. You get Peru out there. Yeah, so it's a good spot to really kind of like centralize international events. All right, yeah, so I'll have to stay in touch. Figure something out. Of course. All right, thank you. All right, you have a good night. Yeah, you too. Adios.